All right, hi everybody. Ryan Pruitt, typical white guy here. We're back with the special episode today. As always, before I begin, random cats might be walking through. Just try to ignore it, and hopefully they don't hit my iPad. Today we're going to spend the episode talking about Rudolph Giuliani, advisor to the president, lawyer to the president, and maybe the State Department to the president. We haven't established that yet, but that's what we're looking into right now. First off, got to admit a little personal. Rudy and I go way back. I you know, I want to say it just seems too poetic, but either the Friday before or it might have been the day before on Monday, September 10th, 2001, I was actually involved in my first campaign was for Alan Hevesy, who was running against Rudy Giuliani for mayor. And I was up in the office helping with mailers, and then I was down on the street handing out flyers. It was either the Friday before 9/11 or, I mean, it just seems too weird. But it might have actually been the day before 9/11. So I knew Rudy a while. And now, even back then, I mean, he was a tough mayor. He'd been a tough prosecutor. And 9/11 happened, and it really elevated him. And you know what? Deservedly. I mean, he was who he was, but you at least, I mean, I think we all just assumed he was a good guy, just politically. Actually, I mean, out of all this now, what we thought of Rudy Giuliani then is what we think of John Bolton now. Someone who politically, maybe totally disagree with, but a man of principle and most importantly, process. Well, that's not more important than principle. But someone who believed in both of those things. And so Rudy Giuliani became a hero after 9/11. And I don't want to, I mean, she gets blamed for everything. But I almost feel like Hillary broke him. Because when did was it 2004 that she ran for Senate? And he was going to run against her and then didn't. And then in 2008, he was going to run for president, what people thought would be against her. But I just feel like once he was actually in the political arena, that's when things started falling apart. I know he went through a divorce. By 2010, he was sort of off the grid. He wasn't, whatever peak he was going to reach nationally, he had peaked. Donald Trump comes along, and they talk about during the 2016 campaign when the Access Hollywood tape came out, nobody would go on the Sunday talk shows to defend Trump. At the time, Reince Priebus was saying we're done. There was already talk about Pence getting Condoleezza Rice to step in and be his vice president because everyone just thought Trump was done. In those Sunday talk shows, Rudy Giuliani was the only one, and he went on all 5 of them, but he was the only Trump person out there defending the president. And I guess for both of them, that's when they sort of hitched their wagons to each other. And then from the time, and from that time, I mean, Giuliani just became synonymous with Trump. There were rumors once Trump won that perhaps, or at least that Rudy wanted to be Secretary of State, but didn't get it and never got it. Once Trump became president, Rudy just became, throughout the Stormy Daniels, throughout the Mueller investigation, he was Trump's defender, but it was always perceived that he was a non-government defender, and he would always say that I'm Trump's personal lawyer, and I'm here defending my client. So it gave him a lot of latitude to say and do a lot of different things because he was acting on his own. And one of the things that kept being asked was that he was Trump's lawyer, non-governmental. Trump wasn't paying him because I think by officially paying him, especially as the president, I think that would have somewhat legally limited Giuliani on what he could say and do. Because even if you're a personal lawyer for the president, you're acting on behalf of the president. Whereas if you're just a guy out there defending a guy, you have more flexibility. April this year. All right, so now we begin. I made up a timeline. So April 7th is when I guess Rudy first officially makes the allegation against Biden in Ukraine that he had gotten the prosecutor fired, that Hunter Biden, that the whole Biden allegation actually started. April 25th is when Biden announces he's running for president. So 2 weeks even before Biden had announced, Rudy was already kind of laying the groundwork for this. May 1st, New York Times reports that Rudy is actually looking into Biden. But two things about that article in that time period are very important. Is that one, okay, Rudy is looking into Biden in Ukraine, but he's doing it as an individual, non-governmental. And again, I mean, we can check the tapes, but I'm fairly certain through this entire time, Rudy kept saying, I am the president's personal lawyer, and I am defending my client. That was his role. That was his motivation. May 10th, Rudy cancels the trip to Ukraine because during the more Rudy talked, it wasn't just. Well, I think I think the obvious question is how is looking into Biden, who is now running for president, but how is looking into the president's potential rival defending? What are you defending? I guess that's a very simple question that Rudy couldn't answer. And that's where you get into the whole 2016 aspect of it, the whole crowd strike. People are saying that Trump colluded with Russia, that he cheated to win. But there's as a lawyer, no one was, the Mueller investigation was going on. So I guess it could be argued, Rudy was defending his client against the allegations being made that were going to be made in the Mueller report. Because I remember, too, he always talked about that him and Sekulow were going to write a counter report, which never happened. So anyway, May 10th, he cancels the Ukraine trip because at this point, the lines are blurring. And people are and he even said he canceled the trip because the press was making a big deal out of this. Well, yeah, because now Biden is running, and that's the other thing that changed, is that Biden is now officially running for president. You're no longer just looking into somebody. You're looking into somebody who immediately became the front runner and the most likely candidate to oppose Trump. August 21st, Rudy has a meeting in Madrid with a Ukraine official. And now we start, this is where we're getting into it. Is at the time he said, again, I'm doing it as personal attorney to a man who happens to be the president. But on our list here, we've now had Volker testify, and I believe it was Volker's actual testimony that Volker helped arrange this meeting. As more of these witnesses have been testifying, what it turns out is that Rudy wasn't just acting on his own, and even wasn't just acting on, he wasn't acting on Trump's behalf as simply a personal lawyer. He was, and you go all the way back to the beginning, and every time you go back and you read that phone transcript that the president released, there's always something new. And in that phone call, I guess the Ukraine minister brought it up that, yeah, we've been in contact with Rudy. That phone transcript that kind of started this whole thing lets you know that Rudy Giuliani was the nexus of official government business between the United States and Ukraine. He was the point of contact. If somebody in the United States wanted to deal with Ukraine, they had to go through Rudy. If anybody in Ukraine wanted to talk to the U.S., they had to go through not the ambassador Sondland, not the envoy Volker, not the regional secretary of state, not the acting ambassador Bill Taylor, but they had to go through Rudy Giuliani. They had to make Rudy happy. September 19th is when Rudy Giuliani went on CNN and first said that he did not go to Ukraine asking about Biden, that it came up tangentially, and then when Cuomo followed up and said, so you did ask about Biden, and Giuliani, of course, said, well, of course I did, and I'm proud of it. Shockingly, 11 days after that interview on CNN, and in between the days he'd been holding up his iPad of text from the State Department showing that he had been acting officially in his mind as a State Department rep. 11 days after that Cuomo interview, Rudy gets a subpoena from Congress. And as if the story wasn't already crazy, October 10th, Rudy Giuliani is having lunch with these two Ukrainian business associates. Their names are up there. Lev Parnas and Igor Freeman. They're having lunch in a Trump hotel. Two associates have one-way tickets to Vienna. Very romantic. Somebody, I think Levitt brought up, of all the cities to go to in Europe on a one-way ticket, that has the most 90s espionage feel to it. So anyway, so Rudy has lunch with these two. They've got one-way tickets in their pocket. They break up, they head to the airport, and the two of them get arrested. And now all three of them are being looked into for just the money moving around, for their involvement in Ukraine, for their involvement in official government business. And then we come to October 15th, and Rudy officially announces through his released lawyer that he won't cooperate with Congress. The real change has been that since Pelosi announced the official impeachment inquiry, subpoenas matter. People are afraid of them now. People believe there will be repercussions if they don't testify. Well, these people are cooperating right now. Rudy, just the other day said he's not. And so we'll see where that goes. But it's we've come a long way in 18 years. Rudy, I hardly know you.